Welcome to the America's Workforce Radio Podcast, the flagship production of the American Workers Radio and Podcast Network, where organized labor and its never-ending fight to protect the rights of the American worker come first. Now, presented by LiUNA, Laborers International Union of North America. Here's your host, Ed Flash Ferenc.
Staffers at the Los Angeles Times walk out for one day, a sad day at Sports Illustrated. And today on the show, the Texas AFL-CIO and the Transportation Trades Department. Welcome to the Monday, January 22nd edition of America's Workforce, where we are available on at least 5 platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Pandora. We have 2 guests on the show today. We're going to start things off with Leonard Aguilar. Len began his career in labor as a pre-apprentice with the United Association of Plumbers and Pipefitters. This would be Local 142 in San Antonio, Texas. He worked his way up, winning election to several offices in that union and distinguishing himself as an instructor in what's called the gold standard registered apprenticeship programs. Boy, they are a gold standard, no doubt about that. Len is the first Latino to hold a top office now in the Texas AFL-CIO. He is currently the Secretary-Treasurer. He did serve as Executive Director of the Texas Building and Construction Trades Council and as Political Director for the Southwest Pipe Trades Association, where he represented plumbers, pipe fitters, welders, HVAC technicians in 3 states. He has advocated for programs that steer working people into union apprenticeships and for equal opportunity on the job. He's a good guy, no stranger to America's workforce, and the Texas Labor Fed right now has about 250,000 affiliated union members. And a couple of things we're going to talk about. Well, you know, the border situation there. I'd like to get labor's perspective on that. And organized labor has been of the opinion that, you know what, we need true immigration reform. I remember so many conversations with Terry O'Sullivan when he served as general president of Labor's International, because in the trades, well, there's a lot of documented and undocumented workers, and they're trying to get that together, especially with some immigration reform in Congress, and it just never went anywhere. So we'll touch on that with Len. We'll also talk about vouchers. Last time we had him on, they wanted to expand that monumentally in the state of Texas. We'll also get into worker safety. It's not an easy state for unions in Texas. Later in the show, we'll be checking in with Greg Regan. Greg is the president of the Transportation Trades Department of the AFL-CIO. TTD.org is their website. And we're coming up to the first anniversary of East Palestine, the toxic train derailment. It was on February 3rd of last year. And we're going to get a perspective from the Transportation Trades Department on what has happened and what has not happened in the last year. Now, there's legislation in Congress that is moving ever so slowly, and it's my understanding that the rail lobbyists are doing their best to water it down. In fact, coming up at the end of, maybe this month at the beginning of next month, we're going to be checking in with Eddie Hall. Now, Eddie Hall is the president of the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineers and Trainmen, and he is very close to that situation. I believe we'll be checking in with him on the 1st of February. So we'll talk to Greg about East Palestine, and then we're going to talk about some are trying to raise the age for pilots. 30 labor unions have signed a letter urging Congress to oppose changing the pilot retirement age from 65 to 67. And altogether, I mean, there's like I said, 30 unions. I'm just looking at the list here. You got the Professional Aviation Safety Specialists, the Teamsters, Unite Here, the United Steelworkers, the International Federation of Professional and Technical Engineers, the Amalgamated Transit Union, just to name a few. And the letter reads, I'm just going to read part of it right now, raising the retirement age to be in non-compliance with International Civil Aviation Organization will upend pilot bidding, will expose pilot unions and airlines to significant legal liability, require hard-fought-for collective bargaining agreements to be reopened, and reduce other unions' ability to negotiate contracts, reduce pilot utilization, create training backlogs, imperil flight operations, and importantly, will not increase the supply of pilots. Yeah, this is a very powerful letter, and Greg's going to talk about that. Lastly, Greg is going to talk about the Consumer Electronics Show, which took place in Las Vegas a couple of weeks ago. He moderated a panel discussion about artificial intelligence and how it has affected at least the Transportation Trades Department so far. So that should be a pretty interesting discussion. So Greg Regan, president of the Transportation Trades Department, will be joining us later in the show. Now a brief look into the world of labor. The segment brought to you by Boyd Watterson Asset Management, $17 billion in assets under advisement, serving the needs of Taft-Hartley funds, corporations, public funds, endowments, foundations, as well as religious organizations. Well, in response to significant planned layoffs, unionized staffers at the Los Angeles Times launched a one-day strike on Friday. The walkout, which the LA Times Guild is calling the first newsroom union strike in the paper's history, took place in response to layoffs that management announced on Thursday of last week as a means of reducing the paper's 2024 budget. They said they just can't operate with the staff as it is right now and what they're getting paid. Now, the Guild, the Times Guild, represents around 400 editorial employees at the paper, including reporters, photographers, as well as editors. And they have offices around the country, and everybody took part in that walkout for one day. Now, time to the walkout, the union held a rally to save local journalism in downtown Los Angeles. That was at noon on Friday. And I got a quote here from the Guild. The management of the LA Times has announced that it intends to imminently lay off a significant number of journalists and is asking the Guild to gut seniority protections in our union contract so they have vastly more freedom to pick whom to lay off. This will greatly damage our ability to provide the accountability journalism so important to Southern California. Now, the union was able to call a strike. Again, this is just for one day on Friday, because they've been working under an exposed contract for months, which is currently negotiating with the paper's management. In a comment, a Los Angeles Times spokesman said the LA Times has not missed a day of publishing in 142 years, and we will be publishing. The Times Union first alerted members that cuts will be imminent in an email on Wednesday. The bargaining committee is not allowed to say how many Guild members the company wants to lay off. But folks, according to the statement, this is the big one. Media Guild of the West president and Times reporter Matt Pierce wrote in an email to members that day. Management then informed the newsroom of the planned layoffs on Thursday. Boy, they're pretty sneaky on this. Now, the union said in a statement, this was on Thursday, that the current demands of management include disclosing the number of staffers the papers wants to lay off, or the salary number that they're trying to reduce. They also want its interim leaders to hold a town hall and explain their plan on how the paper will increase revenue, and wants union reps to be involved in the search for a new executive editor. Got a comment here from John Schlois. John's been on the show many, many times. He heads the News Guild CWA. He's the international president. He said, "We built a union to safeguard the future of the Los Angeles Times and its journalists, and that mission has not changed. The owner can do the right thing by working with journalists to find a solution that's both humane and does the right thing for the international community that depends on the reporting of the LA Times. Keep in mind, John was the individual that organized the LA Times some years ago, which led him to the presidency of the News Guild. Meanwhile, more bad news for journalists following through on a warning earlier this month. Authentic Brands Group, these are the owners of Sports Illustrated, they revoked their license to publish due to a mispayment. As a result of the move, the entire staff of Sports Illustrated, which has been around for 70 years, they were notified on Friday that their jobs are going to be eliminated. The internal memo from Arena said some workers would be terminated immediately, while others will continue working during the notice period legally required of employers. All affected employees will get severance pay, according to the memo. Like I said, a sad day, a very, very sad day at Sports Illustrated, an iconic magazine for so darn many years. At one time, they were owned by Time Incorporated, Time Magazine, and Time Warner. But those days are long gone. All right, quick break. When we come back, Len Aguilar on behalf of the Texas AFL-CIO.
This is America's Workforce.
It takes LiUNA to build North America's infrastructure. From roads and bridges to schools and skyscrapers, the men and women of LiUNA, the Laborers International Union of North America, build the projects we depend on. From constructing the Freedom Tower on the site of the former World Trade Center to untangling Washington, D.C.'s congested interstate, LiUNA members do the work that matters. Find out what it takes to be built by LiUNA at LiUNA.org. That's LiUNA.org.
Attention members of the Heat and Frost Insulators Union who are interested in traveling. Central Ohio has more construction projects on the books than anywhere in the U.S. Mega projects, large and medium-sized jobs are creating more work than our local 50 brothers and sisters can handle. Projects like Intel, the Honda LG battery plant, and multiple data centers for Facebook, Google, and Amazon offer union wages, overtime, and exciting incentives. Local 50 is seeking union travelers to meet the needs of its signatory contractors who can put you to work immediately. If you're a member in good standing and interested in the work opportunities in Central Ohio, visit insulators50.com/AWF travel for more information.
Hi, this is Liz Schuler, president of the AFL-CIO, and I am a huge fan of Flash and America's Workforce Radio and podcast.
America's Workforce is brought to you in part by the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, where you can find more at teamster.org.
There is unity and strength for workers.
We are the USW.
We are the USW.
The United Steelworkers.
The largest industrial union in North America.
We represent 850,000 members in the U.S., Canada, and the Caribbean.
We work in metals,
rubber,
chemicals,
paper,
oil refining,
atomic energy, and the service sector.
We are steelworkers, standing strong and fighting for what's right.
America's Workforce is brought to you in part by the International Federation of Professional and Technical Engineers. You can find more at ifpte.org.
This segment of America's Workforce is brought to you by Survey and Ballot Systems. SBS has been providing unions with secure and flexible election options for over 30 years. Visit surveyandballotsystems.com to learn more.
America's Workforce is brought to you in part by the Ironworkers. You can find more at ironworkers.org.
Now, back to America's Workforce. Here's Ed Flash Ferenc.
And remember, you can check us out on Facebook or follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter. That would be AWF Union Podcast. By the way, this next segment brought to you in part by the Ohio Federation of Teachers, oh.aft.org. Let's go to Austin, Texas right now. And joining us on our live line as our first guest is Len Aguilar. Len is the Secretary-Treasurer of the Texas AFL-CIO. I neglected to mention their website, texasaflcio.org is their website. And right now they represent about 240,000 members in Texas. Altogether, 460 plus affiliates and locals and 20,000 activists. And you could count Len as one of the top activists in the Texas AFL-CIO. Len, by the way, started his career in labor as a pre-apprentice with the United Association of Plumbers and Pipe Fitters. That would be Local 142 in San Antonio. Len, welcome back to America's Workforce. Happy New Year to you. How's your brothers and sisters doing at Local 142? Let's start right there.
Hey, well, Happy New Year to y'all. Hope everybody's doing well. Appreciate the opportunity again. Everybody at 142 is doing great. Our business manager, Mark Potter, and the rest of the folks down there are doing well. Work is good right now, as they say, and it is a good time to be a member 142 and the different trades out there for sure.
Very powerful union. In fact, we had Ray Boyd on the show a couple of months ago. We're going to bring him back, and he's done a lot with education, and he's been doing a lot of traveling to not just the United States, but various countries to talk about the UA experience. So yeah, it's a powerful union. We appreciate what the United Association of Plumbers and Pipe Fitters has done over the years, and they ain't done yet. No, they're cranking it. So how's the Texas Labor Fed doing? Let's start right there. I want to talk about the situation on the border. I'd like to get your perspective on that. And the legislature as well. Every time we have you on, there's something they're trying to pound down workers. It's not what you call a union-friendly state, but so far the Texas Fed, how we holding up right now, Len?
Right now we're doing good. We're doing good. We are holding our own. It's a group effort for sure, and we don't do anything alone over at the Texas AFL-CIO. It's something that is done with our affiliates and our members, like you said, roughly 240,000 of us across the state, and it's difficult because Texas is such a large state. Such a large state, a lot of area to cover. But we are proud of the work that we're doing. We are continuing to fight for the working folks in the state of Texas, and trying to keep everything keep everything on level ground for everybody.
Well, last year was a heck of a year for labor across the country. And I say that in two ways. You got organizing that picked up. Organizing has been going gangbusters since the pandemic, no doubt about that. But what made last year so significant was the brothers and sisters that said, you know what, we got to do better. Inflation is eating away at our pocketbooks. We haven't gotten raises in years. We're going to have to probably go on strike or threaten to go on strike. And I'll tell you, well, look at the Teamsters with UPS. They caved at UPS. They got a heck of a deal. You saw what happened with the UAW. And the UAW, they're working in the South there. They want to get those non-union plants. But how are we doing with regard to organizing in the state of Texas? Now, Texas is tough. It's big. It's very pro-business, not friendly to unions. So maybe you can give us an assessment on last year and what you see for this year, Len.
Well, last year was tough, and I mean, just like every other year, it's tough no matter what year it is. It's going to be a tough road to travel, but it's something that we are, again, being able to hold our numbers and grow a little bit in different areas here and there. They just had a poll that was recently done here in Texas, and our president Rick Levy was interviewed about that here this last week, and roughly 64% of Texans are in favor of unions and think that they're a good idea, just like across the country. And so we have the wind at our back right now, and we got a lot of opportunities. The nurses are doing great work in Texas. Starbucks workers are doing great work not in Texas and across the country. Integral Care has done some good stuff here, and like you said, UAW, and seeing what UAW has done and Teamsters done, and for being able to be there and be support as they're going through their negotiations and their strikes and such. We're in a good spot. We feel confident about what we have in front of us. A lot of good opportunity and a lot of support right now. So we feel good about what's in front of us.
What about the trades? I know you come from the UA and all that. Is that moving forward too when it comes to unionizing and maybe targeting the non-union trades and bringing them over to the union side?
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, I'm confident the trades are going to grow. I mean, they're going to grow as it is, just with all the investments coming down and the opportunities from the federal government. And so they are growing without a doubt. And the jobs, the mega projects that are coming around the state, and the different opportunities for work are happening. And just general growth is happening at the same time with these historic investments that are being made in our state and our country. So yeah, the trades are growing. Everybody is moving full steam ahead, and again, we are excited for what we got in front of us.
Let me ask you about your grid there, the electrical grid, and you went through this a couple of years ago when we had the freeze down there, which was crazy, and you had a lot of pipes breaking, and it's not part of the national grid. Have they addressed that situation, or are they just, moving past it right now?
Yeah, it's funny that you bring that up, is that we just had our winter storm, I guess, as they say, last week or a week and a half ago or so, where we were going to be below freezing in the state for a couple of days. And to see the governor again on TV and making assurances or reassuring everybody that the grid is safe and you're going to have power and we are going to be okay during a cold spell. It's something that shouldn't bring back bad memories, but like you mentioned, I mean, a couple of years ago we lost power. We didn't have power. We didn't have water. The state basically shut down and was moments away from a major shutdown with the power grid. And we had 2 days of cold weather. It was nothing like a couple of years ago. But it is sad. It is sad that we have to go through that, and when you have to be reminded or reassured that, yeah, you're going to be able to turn the lights on, don't worry, and it's going to be cold for a couple of days, but yet everybody is out stocking up. Grocery stores were left empty, and I guess they have addressed some of it, but we haven't had a storm at the level of that winter storm a couple of years ago, so we haven't had the same type of test. Hopefully we're going to be okay moving forward, but it is still something that is concerning every time it does get really cold or really hot during the summertime.
But Texas is still separate from the national grid, and that's what helped the other states. I mean, when one state has some problems, then they pick up power from the other state. Mm-hmm. That hasn't changed, though, has it?
No. Texas is, the governor and everybody in power there is still wanting to be independent and separate from, and we need to get smarter than that and realize that having more opportunities or more options is better for us moving forward. But you're exactly right there. Yes, sir.
All right, let's switch gears here a little bit. Your governor is in the national spotlight because of this border situation over there, which seems to be getting uglier by the day. And we've had a number of conversations with labor leaders like yourself about the situation with immigration in this country. And I referenced Terry O'Sullivan. Terry and I, when he was general president of Labor's International, was very, very concerned. And we often talked about temporary protective status with workers, and which is so needed, especially in the trades. Now, can you share with us the Texas AFL-CIO point of view? Because I haven't heard anything as far as in the national media. And that's why we do this show. We want to hear what the workers have to say. We're seeing one thing on TV. I know it's not a good situation, but Len, fill me in. What's your president, what's yourself, your members, your affiliated union saying about this?
Well, what we are saying is that every worker, every individual should be respected, and everybody should be respected. Bottom line, and what's happening at the border is tragic. It is something that is it shouldn't be happening. It's unfortunate, and it seems like those at the federal level and at the state level both are using it are going to be using it as a campaign slogan or a campaign item as they're moving into this election. Those of us at the Texas AFL-CIO, we are there to help and support. I mean, we run, and this is something that was supported and created by the Texas AFL and our affiliates, but our citizenship clinics. And that's something where we are able to help those that are coming through the process and going through and needing some help and support, because navigating and trying to figure out that system, the immigration system, is difficult. So we partner up with different allies and different organizations to try to help those folks that are trying to get through this process, the right way. And I got to say, I think we are one of the only groups that are trying to do something like that. And yes, with the TPS and the other opportunities that are there, it's something that we need to take advantage of. We need to try to educate our members, our affiliates, our communities a lot more about what options are out there and what opportunities are there. But we are there to help and support, and we're proud of the work that we do in that space, and we're going to continue to do that type of work and continue to help help our neighbors.
I know they're trying to work some type of bipartisan deal in Washington, but there's some on the far right that don't want anything to happen because this is a political year. Is that pretty much the same opinion of the Texas AFL-CIO?
Yes, sir, and it's an out. And basically for our governor, talking about if, we had our voucher issue that was going on this past legislative session, and that led to multiple special sessions. And every time that he started losing or that he lost on the voucher issue or any issue where he did not come out on the winning side of it, it's easy for him to point at the border and then misdirect everybody. He's wasting resources, he's wasting time, he's wasting money, and wasting just wasting the state's time and resources on things that are not going to help the state of Texas. And so when he takes a loss, he just points at the border and gets everybody scared and misdirects everybody's attention. And that's what he's going to continue to do. And yeah, it's going to continue to be a campaign issue, and it's going to become more and more of just of a divisive issue. And it is sad. It's sad that just a couple of weeks ago we had another few deaths. I believe it was a woman with her 2 kids. I don't remember the ages of the children, but we 3 people lost their lives coming across. And allegedly it was because the officers from Operation Lone Star didn't allow the federal officials to come help and do their job as these people were coming across the border, so they wound up drowning. It is something that needs to be addressed. We shouldn't be putting people's lives in danger because of it. And it doesn't matter what side of this. It doesn't matter what side of the aisle that you're on, right, left. It doesn't matter. These are folks. These are people. These are humans. Yeah. And we need to be more respectful of each other in that space.
Leonard Aguilar joining us on our live line today. He is the Secretary-Treasurer of the Texas AFL-CIO. Texas AFL-CIO.org is their website. We'll continue with Len. He mentioned the vouchers. We'll pick up on that. Later in the show, Regan will be joining us on behalf of the Transportation Trades Department of the AFL-CIO. Back in a few minutes.
You're listening to America's Workforce with Ed Flash Ferenc.
It takes LiUNA to power North America with affordable energy. The men and women of LiUNA, the Laborers International Union of North America, have the skills needed to build and maintain oil, natural gas, nuclear, solar, and wind projects that are shaping America's energy future. From new energy tech to retrofitted facilities, LiUNA members do it all. Find out what it takes to be powered by LiUNA at LiUNA.org. That's LiUNA.org.
The Iron Workers Great Lakes District Council, consisting of 8 iron worker local unions in West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Michigan. We build the skylines and bridges along the Great Lakes. With more work than ever before, the Great Lakes District Council is actively searching out the next great iron worker, whether it's building the next Intel plant or constructing a bridge to safely connect our great cities along the lake. So join the Iron Workers Great Lakes District Council today. Find out how and learn more about the council by visiting iwdistrictcouncil.com.
America's Workforce is sponsored in part by Boyd Watterson Asset Management, LLC. Find out more about our investment solutions tailored to meet the needs of Taft-Hartley funds at boydwatterson.com.
America's Workforce is brought to you in part by the Communication Workers of America. You can find more at cwa-union.org.
A great union requires a reliable election system. Survey and Ballot Systems is a trusted election partner with more than 30 years of expertise in managing union elections. By partnering with SBS, your union can ensure it gets an auditable process and a high level of customer service. SBS is here to help you conduct your union vote securely, transparently, and with trust building always in mind. Visit surveyandballotsystems.com to learn more.
America's Workforce is brought to you in part by the United Steelworkers. You can find more at usw.org.
America's Workforce Radio is sponsored in part by the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades, District Council 6, representing painters, glazers, drywall finishers, and sign and display industry workers. They remind you that belonging to a union is your right as an American.
Now, back to Ed Flash Ferenc with America's Workforce.
And remember, you can check us out on at least 5 platforms. That includes Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Pandora. And when you get an opportunity, just sign up and receive our shows on a regular basis and give us a rating. We always appreciate those 5-star ratings, so please keep them coming. By the way, this next segment brought to you in part by the United Labor Agency. ulagency.org is our website. Let's go back to our live line. Joining us from Austin, Texas today is Len Aguilar. Len is the first Latino to hold a top office in the Texas AFL-CIO. For the past 3 years, he's served as Secretary-Treasurer, and we're talking about 250,000 brothers and sisters in the state of Texas. You know, let's talk about, you brought up the vouchers in the last segment here, and I know you and I had many conversations on what the governor was trying to do. And it's not just in Texas. They're doing the same thing here in the state of Ohio. It seems like they all want to privatize public education. But apparently you did pretty good in the last session here. What's the status of public education and vouchers in Texas right now?
Yeah, we did surprisingly well. We were able to stop the legislation again with AFT and the different education members that we have, and community folks across the space. We're able to come together and just bombard the Capitol with calls, with emails, with texts, just that grassroots type organizing and getting in front of these members. It didn't matter where they were, back home or in Austin, and they got the message. They definitely got the message. From the regular session to the multiple special sessions, it was something that we can be proud of, and the work that was done to stop the coupon, I guess you can call it also. They want to call it a voucher, but it's basically a coupon for those that can afford it. So proud of the work that was done by everybody. Everybody did a great job to stop that.
Well, Len, you know they never give up. What's on the agenda for this year in the legislature?
No, that's true. That's true, and I think we can get a general idea of what's coming. Is again, it's campaign season and campaign time, and the governor just received I think it was $6 million, a campaign contribution from one of the major voucher supporters in the country, and so I think we're pretty sure that's just going to get ready to tee things up. To go back in that same space and try to do that. But again, what that showed is when you can come together and work on things. And even in Texas, that is a Republican-controlled state, this was a bipartisan effort. And this showed that Republicans and Democrats came together to against an issue. And it was something that they came together, they talked about it, they went through the process the way it's supposed to be done. And And the final vote was done, and it didn't pass. And the governor's upset about that, and is vowed to campaign, and is going to campaign against a lot of his Republican members of the House because of their opposition to the voucher bill. So we know what's coming. We're going to gear up, and we're going to be there to support and help our members across the board, and we'll do it again.
What about worker safety? And I know it's chilly down there now, but before you know it, it's going to be hot. And last time you and I talked, there was some legislation dealing with rest breaks when you get that extreme heat in the summertime. I mean, come on, just give somebody a chance to sit down, get a drink of water for a little bit. And it seems like the lawmakers there totally they're tone deaf on that issue. What was the result of that, and if it was bad, can we turn it around?
I mean, we hope we can turn it around. Obviously, the local control, the preemption, was something that they were working on and wanting to get done, and they had a lot of business support. Unfortunately, the legislators and those in power, those leaders in Austin, listen to business instead of the workers. And when we are not concerned about workers, those that build this state, like those in the trades that are out there, or those that are working just day to day, the one thing that we all have in common, it doesn't matter Republican or Democrat, the one thing we all have in common is that each and every one of us get up in the morning to go to work and provide for ourselves. And we should be able to go to work, earn a good living, be able to come home at the end of the day and be able to retire after a good career. And that's all we're asking for. We're not asking for anything that is extreme. And we're going to continue to push that message, and we're going to see what we can do to try to change the tide. But unfortunately, right now they are in power and they are listening to the business side of the business industry, and don't have much concern for the workers in the state of Texas. And that's something that we're going to continue to fight for, and we're going to continue to work on.
So let's talk about changing the system from within. And you know what's been going on here, and especially this year, because it's such a politically charged year, that there's a lot of union members, people like yourself, they could be a business manager, president of their local, that get involved in politics and try to change the system from within. I know the AFL-CIO has a toolkit on this, kind of grooming our members to get involved in political office, whether it's a school board, a city council, a state rep, a governor, whatever the case may be. How's that program look in the state of Texas, Len?
To be honest, that's something that we really haven't touched on as a unit or as a group, and that's something. But we still have those union members that are running for office across the state for different offices, like you said, and so we're excited for that. We're there. We're going to help and support those members where we can. But it is something that we definitely need more of. We need more folks, more of our union folks, more of our union brothers and sisters, more of our union family to become involved in that process. And we have a good opportunity for that coming up this weekend. We have our COPE convention coming up this coming weekend in Austin, and that's where we're gonna lay out what we have in front of us and the path that we're going to take through these elections, and who we're going to be supporting and who we're not going to be supporting, and the issues that are important to us. And again, making all these determinations of support as a group the way it should be, and we're excited about what we have in front of us and the opportunities we have in front of us in that space. But we really haven't gotten into that space too much, but it is on the list of things to do.
One more question here before you go, Len, and I want to talk about what we call the pathway to the middle class. And since you come from the trades, I mean, you know what the trades did for you. I mean, the work. There's so much work out there. No matter where you go, there's so much work. And you can get good money and great benefits in the trades. How are we doing, in your opinion, statewide? And you served as executive director of the Texas Building and Construction Trades Council for some time. How are we doing attracting young people into the trades, into those union positions in the state of Texas right now?
I think we are doing a good job. I mean, it could always be better, but I think we're doing a good job. And those that are in charge of our local unions, our business managers, and those on the apprenticeship side of things, those apprenticeship directors or coordinators, understand that and are starting to become more accepting of the idea. We have to get in these different spaces. We have to go where these workers are at, these young workers. We can't continue to do the same thing that we've always done, because there is, like you said earlier, there's so much demand and so much opportunity in front of us that we need to fill these jobs, and that is something that we are working on. And I think the trades are in a lot better space than they were years ago, and we're going to continue as a building trades in the state to get better. From when Mike Cunningham was there before me, and then when I was there, and the folks that have come after me, and to Rick and the folks that are in there now, they're going to continue to push and continue to get better at bringing opportunities to younger people in the state of Texas. Doesn't matter where you come from or where you live, but we're gonna be there, and we're gonna give folks an opportunity.
Well, I know you started a local 142 in San Antonio with the UA. We started off the conversation. I think it's only appropriate that we end it that way. We'll do a shout out here to local 142. How many members do they have right now, to your knowledge? Has it been pretty good?
Yeah, I think if I remember right, I think they're around 1,100. I remember seeing 1,100, 1,200. Good. Could be wrong by a couple, but I think right around there. Good. Well, we wish them well. And thank you so much for joining us here today. Len Aguilar, Secretary-Treasurer
of the Texas AFL-CIO. Again, the website, do check them out, texasaflcio.org. You covered a lot of topics. You stay safe, stay in touch with us. Just remember this. I say this to so many of my guests, almost all of them. This show is your show. So if you got something going on in your legislature, give us a call, and we'll get you on the show and make sure that everybody in the country hears what's going on in the state of Texas. Okay, brother?
We appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. We're going to take a quick break. Greg Regan is the president of the Transportation Trades Department of the AFL-CIO, and he'll be coming up next.
This is America's Workforce. More shows available at awfradio.com.
It takes LiUNA to keep America running. Over 70,000 public employees are part of LiUNA, the Laborers International Union of North America, delivering critical services such as healthcare and emergency response, as well as maintaining roads and sanitation systems. Even the National Postal Mail Handlers Union, representing over 47,000 U.S. postal workers, is affiliated with LiUNA. Find out what it takes for LiUNA to keep America running at LiUNA.org. That's LiUNA.org.
Hire union musicians. Call Music Talent of Cleveland at 216-881-1802. Call Music Talent of Cleveland as your dependable source for professional musicians in Northeast Ohio. Union musicians add harmony to weddings, elegance to parties, and uplifting music for all events. Music Talent of Cleveland contracts solo and ensemble musicians as well as bands and orchestras for single engagements. So hire union musicians. Call Music Talent of Cleveland today. 216-881-1802. America's Workforce is brought to you in part by the United Auto Workers. Find more at uaw.org.
There is unity and strength for workers.
We are the USW.
We are the USW,
the United Steelworkers.
The largest industrial union in North America.
We represent 850,000 members in the U.S., Canada, and the Caribbean.
We work in metals,
rubber,
chemicals,
paper,
oil refining,
atomic energy, and the service sector.
We are steelworkers, standing strong and fighting for what's right.
America's Workforce is brought to you in part by the Heat and Frost Insulators Labor Management Cooperative Trust. Find out more at insulators.org/LMCT.
Union members need to be heard. Reliable and convenient union voting has never been more important than it is now. Make voting easy for your membership by working with survey and ballot systems. SPS offers encrypted and monitored solutions that ensure your elections are accurate and accessible for every member through mail-in, online, and in-person voting. Visit surveyandballotsystems.com and take the next step in getting secure and auditable elections.
America's Workforce is presented by the Laborers International Union of North America. Feel the power right now at LiUNA.org.
Now, back to America's Workforce. Here's Ed Flash Ferenc.
And remember, you can check us out on Facebook or follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter. That would be AWF Union Podcast. Let's go to Washington right now. And joining us on line number 2 is Mr. Greg Regan. Greg is president of the Transportation Trades Department, a division of the AFL-CIO. We're talking over 36 unions dealing with transportation, whether it's on the ground, on the rails, or in the air. TTD.org is their website. And we are coming up to the one-year anniversary of what happened in East Palestine, Ohio. It was February 3rd of 2023. And frankly, not too much has happened when it comes to rail safety, and that's why we bring people like Greg Regan to the show. Greg, welcome back to the show. Talk to me about this. I mean, you, from the get-go, you were involved in this. You're involved in legislation. I'd like to get your assessment here almost 1 year later. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, it is sad that we are almost a year out and that we haven't seen any meaningful action, most importantly by Congress. And, I think that there has certainly been a lot of interest. There are a lot of different pieces of legislation out there, but, we haven't even seen a vote in the Senate on the Brown-Vance bill, which is, not perfect, but would make some really important improvements. And in the House, we haven't even had a dang hearing. The Republicans haven't even held a hearing on rail safety, let alone trying to move on any legislation. So, I think we're trying to turn up the heat here, continue to see some progress.
Now, we're still seeing train derailments, not the scope of East Palestine. So I'm just wondering here, is this the cost of doing business? Has the industry, have they done anything to improve the safety of what's going on with the rails?
No, not in any meaningful way. I mean, we're still seeing furloughs from Union Pacific, for example, even though, the extreme job cuts that we've seen and the workforce levels have been a real contributor to safety problems on the railroads. And, you're right, derailments have not, we're still having derailments, and they haven't gone down. But at the same time, the railroads are lucky, and frankly we're all lucky, that we haven't seen another derailment like East Palestine, where we have a, vinyl chloride burning and an explosion. But that's frankly luck of the draw. And, a train doesn't get to choose which cars derail and what's on those cars. So we can't, take it for granted that because there hasn't been another East Palestine itself, that the problem has been solved. There is always that risk about which cars derail at which time and where they are.
So the chemicals that were on that train, they're still carrying chemicals very similar to what happened in East Palestine then?
Oh yeah, not only very similar, they're still carrying vinyl chloride. And let me be clear, I actually, I would much rather have a lot of these things transported on rail as opposed to, trucks on the road. But again, just because it is the safest way to move some of this stuff doesn't mean that we can't improve the safety on the railroads. We've seen the consequences, and there are ways to improve the safety and to try to prevent the next one of these accidents.
Well, I know maintenance is a problem as far as the number of people on the job. Now, we've had a huge reduction in workers on the railroad. Has that improved to your knowledge right now? Are they hiring more at this stage?
No, I don't know workforce levels themselves. I mean, there was a slight uptick last year for a little while, but I think as a net employee levels have not improved to my knowledge. And again, Union Pacific, one of the largest railroads, just announced another round of layoffs or furloughs last week or 2 weeks ago. So, I think the railroads are counting on complacency. They want to continue business as usual with the way that they've been able to make record profits quarter after quarter, continue to reward their shareholders, and sort of just sweep everything under the rug. And that's what they were counting on after East Palestine, is that Congress wouldn't act in any meaningful way because they could delay it enough. They could use their friends in Congress to delay legislation enough that go 3, 4, 6 months later. There will be another thing that Congress has to deal with, and this whole issue will be swept under the rug. And we're trying to make sure that doesn't happen.
Well, it ain't going to happen on this show. We're going to make sure that this issue stays alive. I promise you that. Let's move on to the age of pilots. Now, right now, the age is 65. They want to raise it to 67, and I saw your letter. I referenced it at the top of the show. There's 30 unions that signed off on a letter. Talk to me about this. Is this something that they want, like, on fast track right now, or what?
This is an issue that was a priority of one member of Congress in the House, and it sort of just gained a weird snowball, reaction. Nobody from industry went into this round of an FAA reauthorization with this as a priority. If you're a pilot, or if you're a regional airline group, if you're a regional airline itself, no one was saying, yes, the pilot retirement age, that's going to solve our problems. This was manufactured by really one person. And then it sort of gained legs. And frankly, it's just really bad policymaking. I mean, we shouldn't go into, the retirement age is a medical regulation, and it's a safety regulation. If we are going to be doing anything drastic like changing the retirement age, it should be based on, medical data and safety. It shouldn't be shoot from the hip, reactive type of legislative maneuver. And that's what this is. And that's, frankly, that's just bad governance. And I'm counting on that principle, carrying through at the end of the day. But, it's still alive, and that's been really frustrating.
So this letter was sent to every member of Congress, I take it then?
It was mostly sent to the Senate, to senators, because that's where this is still being debated right now. The House thing is done for the moment. But assuming the Senate gets the bill done, we're going to keep the pressure on when they have to go to conference, and the House and the Senate have to unite their bills to get one that they can pass and send to the president. But, right now we're focused on the U.S. Senate.
Gotcha. Yeah, those of you listening, you go to the TTD.org website and you can read that letter and see all the unions, all their logos are posted on that letter. 30 of them altogether. All right, let's talk about technology here. And recently there was a discussion on artificial intelligence at the Consumer Electronics Show, which took place in Las Vegas. I know a lot of members of organized labor was there, and there's been a number of discussions. On behalf of the Transportation Trades Department, we're hearing all kind of stuff. I know the Teamsters are very concerned about automated trucks, driverless vehicles. I mean, the future can be exciting and scary at times. Greg, what are you hearing about artificial intelligence and how it's going to affect the workforce, especially our union members?
Yeah, it is. I think you put it right. It is exciting, but also scary. And, the rapid change in terms of how technology can sort of become infused into our lives requires some really difficult but important policymaking. It requires real regulations to make sure that, everything that's being done is being done safely, but also to make sure that we are, planning and integrating in a way that ensures that that we don't do worse economic harm than any benefit that's realized from it. So that means thinking about how do we integrate workforce issues into how these things are being developed. And, we've been trying to do this from, for example, automated technology for a while. And we've been trying to ensure that there are workforce concerns front and center as people are, writing the regulations that will actually allow these things on the road. But also with AI, Liz Schuler, president of AFL-CIO, and Microsoft just recently had an agreement where they're going to work together to ensure that AI and worker issues are not going to be, separate from each other. That they're actually going to have an idea about how AI and worker, and workers can work together to expand jobs, to be a tool, not a replacement of existing workers.
It's funny. We had a conversation with Ro Khanna. Ro is the California representative in Silicon Valley, which, a lot of the artificial intelligence research is coming out of. And he's of the opinion that if you're going to use artificial intelligence and your productivity is going to increase, maybe you should share in the profits as well. I tell you, we need more people thinking in that direction. Don't you think that would be a great idea, Greg?
I do. That's been an issue going back to the 1930s. Frankly, you go back to Walter Reuther and when the auto industry was being automated. Those same ideas were being bandied about, and it's always been something that corporate America has resisted. It's a tale as old as organized labor, unfortunately.
Yep. Yeah, we just got to raise our voices on that issue. All right, we're going to leave it on that note. Greg Regan, Transportation Trades Department of the AFL-CIO, where he serves as president. You take care. We'll talk down the road. Okay, brother?
All right, thank you. Take care.
All right, that'll be it for another edition of America's Workforce. Coming up tomorrow, we're going to check in with the sheet metal workers and our independent labor voice, Tom Buffenbarger. Until then, all of you have a safe and wonderful day.
That concludes another episode of the America's Workforce Radio Podcast. Thanks for listening, and be sure to subscribe so you never miss a show. America's Workforce is a production of Labor Tools and BMA Media Group. Find out more information online at labortools.com.